Hi milkers, welcome back to Tres Leches, the podcast where three Latina friends tell stories, unpack identity, and get real about everything from pop culture to politics.
It's sweet, it's a little messy, and always drenched in milk.
3 kinds of milk, in fact.
And the best part is, you can enjoy our milk even if you're lactose intolerant.
Rate, like, subscribe, and share with someone who gets it. Or needs to.
Hi everybody, welcome back. Hello. Hi Johnny, hi Ian. How are ya? So many new environments to observe.
Yes, correct.
In our fish bowl.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, we'll go with the most important first. Johnny, you are in a new home. Tell us.
Yes, I'm in a new
I know, you
home.
thought that would have been me. The
I
most
know,
important
because it's
first.
so gorgeous.
Well, it's growth, you know.
Yeah. Thank you.
Starting with
Yes.
others first.
I'm in a new home. We've got a staircase. We've got outdoor space. It's really, we're moving on up. Not to the east side, but, you know, we are moving on
But
up.
around
Yeah.
the way.
Exactly. If you're listening to the pod, you won't be able to see this, but if you do go to our YouTube channel, you will be able to see the beautiful picturesque background that Ian is sporting. It kind of gives fake, but it's not.
Yeah.
It
another
looks fake,
book.
but it is real.
Yeah. Great. Two book titles I could use. It kind of gives fake, but it's not. By Ian Paget. Yeah, I am in a little piece of heaven. I'm not going to lie. I am in Bolinas, California, which is itself in Marin County, which I had never heard about before the last couple weeks. But Mario has been coming out here for the last couple years, and this is where he stays, like in this area. And to think I almost didn't come because I was like, oh, like I didn't earn that vacation. Like, when am I gonna? I'm so happy I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Nancy Meyers, Nora Ephron, you know, like dream of a place to podcast. And so I can't wait to discuss all the things, food and fitness, because those are two things that have been jacked up since I got here. Hint, hint, it's not fitness, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm happy, you know what I mean? I feel
Yeah,
like
you're on
those
vacation.
gays- exactly. I feel like a gay who's in San Diego or Austin, you know, they're just happy.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
just happy people.
You're doing, and just like that season 4 right there.
Yes. And
Yeah,
the
did
woman thought,
Mario hear anything or watch anything from last week's podcast?
oh my God, he you know,
I'm sure it's detoxing.
he's a little bit of that. It was a bit of an emotional day that I think I arrived, and if I hadn't actually come, he would have been here alone. And he was like, "I'm so thankful you're
my
here,"
goodness.
because, you know, I was actually surprised to hear him sort of sound so vulnerable, only because, like, I don't know, but he was pretty emotional about it. It was kind of a big deal, and he understood where I was coming from. He understood where we were coming from around just like what was that last episode. And you know, listeners, go back to listen to our episode that we dissect before having watched the final episode, which, by the way, was not written as a series finale because they did not know they were going to be a series finale episode, all the things. But wow, yeah, he's a little, I don't you know, he wishes it wasn't the way it was. I'll just say that.
Sure.
You know.
You know, I this is something that I've been doing in my life lately a lot. I've been trying to think, how will history remember X, Y, or Z? Because now we're old enough now where we have lived through experiences and thought one thing, and then history has remembered it another way. I do think that people will remember the end of And Just Like That with a little bit more softness in their heart than they have in the week since it actually ended. When the dust settles and people really do grok and really get it into their heads that was not meant to be the way it ended. You know, maybe you didn't like the season, sure. We can argue that upside down, doop-de-loop, tweedledum tweedledee,
Right.
but that wasn't how the show was supposed to end.
Yeah.
You know, that was just an episode.
Yeah.
A bow had to be tied.
And what a great place to go after you've, you know, tied that bow. You guys are
Yeah.
in such a beautiful place. You're eating
Yes.
good food and
We
good
are.
company.
It really is nice, you guys. Like, a dream is like, I want you both to come. Like, I was like, it'd be so fun to have this house and be in a place like this with like my friends, you know?
Yeah, it's like I think it's just that is kind of where we are now in life, where it's like we get together, we get a house in Bolinas, we cook dinners, we make breakfast, we go to the water, we walk around, we talk about life, where we are, where we've been, where we'd like to go still. There's so much to do,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
One day.
It has brought up many, many things, especially around what we're going to talk about today. So I'll save that for when we get to discussing, which,
Oh, sure.
which I think will be very insightful.
We're lucky because there's a lot of water cooler TV moments. It's been a minute since we've had so many.
Love
Where,
it.
those kind of where we're all buzzing about shows. We've had a good year with that. Traders had a lot of water cooler moments.
Love
They've
Island.
given us some water cooler for the past 2 seasons, but Love Island.
Yeah.
Hacks gave us some good ones.
I am a little remiss that we did not Gilded Age art. Like, God. Well, season 4. We'll be back for season 4 on that one. Don't you worry, listeners. We will talk about all those white people. And what's it called?
Actually, there was a lot of black people this
No, I
season.
know. Yeah. Sorry, I just was, throwing spaghetti at the wall.
And now, fat people.
Fat people.
We devoured Fit for TV, which is the latest campy, trashy Netflix documentary, if you will. I guess it is a documentary, though it feels way too salacious to be like, to me, like a documentary is like an academic term, but not anymore. So Fit for TV, which is it is the inevitable documentary that looks back and reflects on the horrors of or the delights of some reality television enterprise from the days of yore.
Right.
And I can't. First of all, The Biggest Loser was such a big show. But I think I had forgotten really its cultural significance and impact.
Yeah.
I really had.
I never
I was
watched
aware
it.
of it then, but I think
Yeah.
it's kind of slipped my mind.
It definitely came around the time where, reality TV was just starting to hit. You know what I mean? We had Survivor, we had Real World, we had this was even before The Real Housewives. This was back in 2004.
Oh, yeah.
So we were still, young. But I remember it being, appointment television. It was back when the networks were still the networks, and The Biggest Loser was on everybody's mind, whether you were into diet culture or not. It was just, people would either tune in to feel inspired, to feel horror at the way that they were treating these people, or to just laugh, because they really set the show up to be kind of something for everyone. And I don't know that is the best thing because of the way, I mean, even just watching the documentary, I'm sure you guys feel this way, seeing some of the things that they put these people through. I'm like, oh, they just wanted to get like footage of a fat person eating a donut and going crazy. Like this, it felt very sideshow circus vibes.
Yeah.
And what hurt me so much was that a lot of these contestants went on this show because they felt like they had no other recourse. And this was before, I really feel like this was before the gastric bypass boom really started, because I feel like that came towards the middle, because this show was on air for 17 seasons.
Yes, that would have been a little bit later. I mean, gastric bypass has been around for gastric
Forever,
bypass and bariatric surgery has been around for a very, very long time. But I would say that it really came to a head in the early 2010s.
Yeah.
In the middle of all this. I'm just putting in perspective. This show, The Biggest Loser, which aired on NBC, was. I remember kind of thinking at the time that it was a more sophisticated. I thought that it was a very sophisticated thing. I found it to be, even though it was Sideshow E.
Yeah.
Remember, we had the Swan.
Right. Oh my God.
The Swan that would have been like
remind me, what was the
2003,
Swan?
2004.
You didn't watch The Swan? That was when they got women and men who were, by all intents and purposes, ugly.
Okay.
and they turn them from an ugly duckling into a swan, a
Okay.
beautiful person. So they do diets, they do rhinoplasty, they do all this plastic surgery over a course of however many months, and then they do this grand reveal, and people would be like, "Oh my God, look at how beautiful she looks!" Like, it was cuckoo. Like, looking back on it now, it was cuckoo. But back then, it was like, wow, could you imagine? Good for her. Look what they did. Or like Extreme Home Makeover, where they took a poor family and they're like, here you go, poor guy. Here's a big house. We're not going to do anything afterward, but here you go.
You can't pay the taxes on it now when your house is when it's newly assessed.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I will say the Swan felt even naughty then. It felt naughty. It felt somewhat gross.
What network was it on?
It was on Fox.
Okay.
The dirtier network at the time.
Yeah. You know what? I think it really took advantage of. It was, at the first season was really about women. Later on, they had male contestants, right, Johnny?
Yeah.
But at the beginning, it was just women, and it was mostly mothers. It was kind of mommy makeovers. It's what we would call that they had today. Like, these were not obese women, by like medically obese. I don't believe that they were typically very morbidly obese women. They were women who were slightly overweight, but they needed their boobs done and a tummy tuck. Because they had kids and they had been ridden hard by life. You know what I mean? By their kids and the whole thing. So it really took advantage of the idea that mothers felt ugly and at home and alone and preyed on that for sure. And listen, no one here at this table of The View, no one is here who was more pro plastic surgery than me.
Yeah.
So if it offended my sensibilities, then
if me, the cat lady.
Exactly. Something in the milk is not clean. Something is rotten in the state of Denmark, and I don't think it's the milk.
Yeah.
So it was a lot. And I think that Biggest Loser, I remember thinking this is going to be classier than that, because it seemed like it was following the rules that we had established for the ways that you need to lose weight.
Diet, exercise.
Right. And doing so militantly, so aggressively. That was a part of
it was like losing weight through sport. Like it was the sport was
the Hunger Games of weight loss.
Correct. When you watched Ian, did you have any moments where you're like, oh?
Yes, I did. And I think also because I did not watch this. I remember this show, obviously, but I never watched it. And so rewatching it now with under the guise that we were going to talk about it and in its documentary form, I was like pretty shocked at the level of like spectacle around these people's story and how they, like you said, Juan or Johnny, like they kind of wanted to come and fix and save their overall health, and realizing that really wasn't what they signed up for. And then also to sit there and listen to the producers talk about we're here to make a show. Like when you understand all that, it's just such a wild thing, the idea itself, anyway. But my wows were around contestants being berated on the show and just this abuse of power from the trainers, but that's also what they were there for. And then the using of caffeine pills,
which we can get into.
Which we can absolutely get into. But I think my biggest one was Tracy, who was on season 2, I believe. I can't remember, but this woman is they all had to send. She was later than that. Okay. They all had to send in their videos, blah, blah, blah. And for this specific season, they put him on a school bus. They took him somewhere on the coast of, California. And their first challenge / how we meet them, for any of the listeners who don't know, is they get off the school bus. And I think it was a mile run down the beach.
Yeah.
And
that was their first thing.
And if you cross that finish line, you got to be on the show. So this girl, Tracy, who we follow, she makes it happen, baby. She does it, but at a crazy cost. She literally cannot finish the race. Yep. And then they go back and help her. This is important. The literal other teammates help her, and it's a big deal because then she passes out, and it's like actually very scary. You know, the documentary makes you think she dies for like 9 minutes or something like that. But like she sees dark and then she sees light, is what she says. That was a crazy wow for me. And then the other crazy wow was when she wakes up, she's like talking to the doctor from the show, Dr. Huizenga, and she says she wants to finish. She wants to be on the show, you know, and that she walks back into the room. It's very like that little show, that Little People show of the entrance. It's like, hi,
Hey,
hey,
Yeah. Hey y'all, how y'all doing?
How y'all doing?
Thank you. It was giving it's that ran from Tracy's hobble back into this space. Anyway,
Yes.
so that was a big wow for me, because then they turn on her because she is the only one. I know I'm jumping here, but it's like also let's just start talking about it. She on that season is the only one who is prescribed no exercise because she can't. And yet losing so much weight, still doing really well at weigh-ins
With dieting alone.
Which I thought was so not like fascinating as though like, whoa, that's surprising, but just kind of like, yeah, fuck all of you. I almost died and I am here to win. You know, like I love the idea of someone just being like, I came here to do this thing. It's not Omarosa, you know what I mean? But anyway, so that story, that spectacle of story around Tracy was really moving to me because she ends up building a very strong relationship with the doctor, Dr. Huizenga himself. They run a marathon years later. Like they're friends with each other. And so that aspect of it is what kind of stayed with me more than the overall, you know, more than the rest.
So she was season 8. I just looked it up. She was
Got
season
it.
8.
Thank
so
you.
It was a little bit later season. That's where they had the sensational edge
Beginning.
of launching them into the race to see
I
if they
see.
can even get on the show. Because, you know, time to reinvent and
Yeah.
keep it growing. I found her story so useful. The producers ate with having Miss Tracy on. Miss Yukich is her last name. Because she, I think, really depicts the chiaroscuro of it all. In her, we see like the best of the show and the worst of the show. Her story is because she has offered herself such vulnerability. She was a desperate mother and wife whose husband, her marriage was in shambles, and she thought, if I don't lose this weight, my husband is going to leave me. Spoiler, he was cheating and left her anyway after she lost the weight.
Right.
But the point is, you know, she was really desperate and collapsing, embarrassing herself on national television before it's even aired, and then still fighting to stay on the show in any way speaks to the desperation and the obsession we have with thinness in this country. And it was heartbreaking to watch. Show, as someone who has literally battled and dealt with my weight my entire life, it will always be something that is a part of who I am. Just a part of who I am. So I look back at The Biggest Loser and I remember thinking they need like what about the medium losers? What about the people who just need to like get it together a little bit? And that's what ended up happening in later seasons, the two
girls.
Sisters that come on together. But that show, I remember it did, so 2005, and by the way, John, I looked it up really quick, bariatric surgery really had its peak, like its first peak between 2005 and 2011, so this would make sense. It would have been all around the same time.
Right.
We were at a fever pitch as a nation about weight loss, and so that makes sense that there would be overlap there. But I remember thinking to myself, as I said earlier, wow, they're doing it the right way. Like, this is right. It all just seemed so right. And I wonder if The Biggest Loser did more damage than good net for America.
I think it absolutely did more damage than net good. I mean, because one, the proof is in the pudding. These people might have lost weight, but they gained it back. Like, there's maybe 2 people in this whole documentary, the medium losers, okay? The girls that like that the producers were like, why are you even here? They were like, we loved it. It was great for us. But like the ways that they depicted these people, the situations that they would put them in, even so much as like starting off, like launching these people into this kind of excessive working out, no eating, when these people were used to eating crazy amounts of food, clearly, you know. And so when you put someone in that kind of like mouse chamber and you're like, dance monkey dance, it's not good for their health. That's why, you know, what happened with Tracy happened. Like, a lot of these things were not normal. This is not, they're not going to work during the day and then going to the gym after work. They were working out all day, every day. These things were not attainable, you know, for these people. And it was, I think, also really bad for fat phobia. I mean, fat phobia has always existed. It still exists. It permeates everything that we do. This really put a spotlight on fat people in a way that was like, that how dare you not want to take this opportunity to better your life? And there's just so much that show did, and the shows that came out around that time did, to amplify the place where we are, where we say, I can say whatever the fuck I want about your body. You know, it's just, as time has gone on, people have gotten really clever. It's much like racism in a way. Like, people, you know, it's like, it's not that I hate you because you're fat. It's just, I want you to be healthy. I don't want anything to happen to you. Bitch, this is a lady on the internet. You don't fucking know her. It's one thing if your parent is older and you want them to lose some weight because it'll be easier for them to walk down the street or whatever. However you want to keep them healthy, sure. But these random people online that you're just like, hey, it's all love, but you should get on a treadmill. Like, you know, it's just... I think it's been really toxic for the culture.
First of all, I think that the show, and I'm going to sound like a lunatic, but I'll explain why I sound like a lunatic. In defense of The Biggest Loser, that situation where the people gain the weight back is not unique to this.
No, of course.
Yeah.
A 2018 meta-analysis showed that within 2 years, more than 50% of lost weight is regained. By 5 years, over 80% of that loss is typically regained. So I think to overly be like, well, this is why they were yo-yo. No, honey, baby, they've been yo-yo dieting since they were in 6th grade, in 4th grade. That's the nature of it. There are other issues at play here.
Right.
Not just that. The same way that The Biggest Loser did not destroy these motherfuckers' metabolisms. The ho-hos after school did for 20 years.
Right. But
listen.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, as a person who will always, even though I am I have been thin for most of my adult life, will always associate as a fat person. I mean, I also want to call a spade a spade. You know what I mean? I want to have intellectually honest conversations about these things. And I think that, yes, reality television, the internet, social media, has all been terrible for us. But humans had already been terrible to us, and we've been terrible to each other and to our own bodies for a very long time. So although, yes, it may have done net bad for the culture, et cetera, else, I think that we have learned a lot about weight loss. And I will tell you, I think that one thing, to see Mr. Charlie, is that his name? The one who's lost the most weight?
Danny.
Gained it all back. I do think that it maybe made a lot of people feel very seen. There is something to saying like, hey, I'm not the only one who is literally failing. I remember when I was a kid, as a fat kid who was just so much fatter than everyone else as a child. Thank God that I had a great personality and a lot of money. Both of those helped. I felt so alone in it. But when to see our biggest loser in its history gain all his weight back in a world that prioritized thinness so much, it's so sad to see. But at the same time, it is catastrophic, and yet it says, yeah, I've been there too. I've had my boyfriend of 8 years look at me differently because I didn't have the waist, like he was no longer attracted to me at the weight that I was, as opposed to when we first started dating. That's not a story I know through sympathy. I know that story. I'm empathic toward it because it's mine. So, when you experience that and you have had yo-yos, there's something to that. Now, let me read myself, okay? I was talking to my boyfriend Jay last night, which, by the way, is not the boyfriend that was critical of a weight gain. I've been thin throughout my relationship with Jay so far. Let's see what happens. He got me on a good swing. I said to him, I really need to check myself before we start this conversation. Because I am very unkind and have very little patience.
Oh.
I extend very little grace to the overweight.
Oh.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I'm
But
patient.
you do that to
and
yourself too.
Exactly.
That's what I mean. That makes sense to me.
Exactly. It starts at home. I'm not mean to other people and not mean to me. No one is meaner than me. My ex used to say to me, I would say something critical about my body or like anything, and he was like, nobody's thinking about that. And I was like, I'm thinking about that. I'm looking at other people and thinking that I am. So anyway, I don't bring that patience and that warmth often when dealing with issues about weight because I'm so hard on myself.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that Joelle, who is she is one of the black women who was a part of the documentary who went on with her friend. She tells her story, and it is objectively a sad story about enduring verbal abuse at the hands of one of the trainers, Bob Harper. But I also want to be like, girl, come on. He wasn't that bad. He wasn't that bad. And you were complaining boots. And that is my gut reaction is to go there. It's not to say believe women. The same thing that I would understand that I would extend to someone who would be telling me about a terrible boss or about abuse that they're experiencing at home or another terrible situation. I question them. I always kind of,
But why is
like
that?
Because,
That's
fat
the
people
system that has
there
been
is a
set
system.
up.
Correct.
Is that
but-
if you are fat, you are lazy. So when you see a person on the screen, especially when she's juxtaposed to the girl that she was in that couple with, the other girl was working her ass off to try and lose the weight.
Yeah.
Joelle was not working her ass off, or
performing.
She said that she was working as hard as she could, and this is what I wish people understood. Just because you can doesn't mean everybody else can as well.
But that's the whole. Yes. Okay,
everybody
go.
has different abilities. Everyone has different ways of losing weight, and the reason, Juan, you don't have as much. I believe the reason you don't have as much empathy is because you know how hard you can try. You know how hard it is. And also, when you don't try as hard, you're hard on yourself as well. So when you see someone else doing what you've done, possibly
Perhaps.
in the past, you're like, you get very triggered by it because you're like, I know that struggle as well. Not only do I know the one where it's like you're trying your hardest, but I also know the days where I choose not to go to the gym. I choose not to eat the thing that's going to make my brain feel good and my body feel good. I choose to get the quick fix, the cheesecake on the way home, because guess what? It reminds me of Golden Girls. I feel like having a cheesecake. I feel like being Sophia. And then 10 minutes later, after that high is gone, you're back to being a bitch to yourself. And that is because that's fat phobia. That it's internalized. We don't realize that we're doing it. Because that is the way it's in the zeitgeist. It's it's the way the world is set up. It's who we pedestalize. I don't want to say like obesity. There's nothing wrong with it. Obviously, there are a lot of health risks, 100%. But when I saw that Bob Harper, this trainer to all of these people, had a heart attack and almost dropped dead, I was like, okay, all of our bodies are different. All of the ways this food hits us is different. Gluten allergies, we all have a different story when it comes to food and our bodies. And I'm not saying this is only like thin people to fat people. Fat people do this to thin people all the time. Everybody's just judging each other's bodies. Like anytime that I've posted online talking about, losing weight or how I feel about my body, there's always some bitch in the comments that are like, oh, this is fat, boo hoo, like you should look at me. And it's like, hey, I know I'm not trying to do oppression Olympics with someone that's fatter than me. What I am saying is that fat phobia touches everybody. Even those muscle queens that you see at the circuit party, that those sometimes are the girls that are the hardest on themselves when it comes to fat phobia, you know? And because we don't know their story, we don't know what they've, you know, and I'm not saying, oh, poor circuit queen. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is that it touches us all in very different, unique ways, depending on our experience, depending on how we digest, depending on our workouts, what our bodies can do, the injuries. And that's a lot of times, you know, when noticing on the show as well, a lot of these people that would submit was like, I was an athlete, I was a swimmer, I was this, and then I had an injury. And then it all went downhill from there, you know? So what I take from this is we have to be kinder to people. We have to be kinder, firstly, to ourselves. Like you said, it'll always be with me. It is one of those things like trauma. Trauma is always going to be with you.
Sure.
It's how you manage it that really sets you apart. You know what I mean?
Yes, but I'm saying in Joelle's instance, I think we could. I'm not saying we are. We could overly use her example to diminish the positive experiences that others had with the show because she fucking hated it, which is fine. She literally said, and I quote, that she had never heard verbal abuse like that in her life.
Yeah.
Mommy, I'm sorry. You've never heard verbal abuse like that in your life? But that's the whole point, that there has to be villains, there has to be winners, there has to be losers, there has to be antagonists and protagonists on a documentary like this.
It's
to
storytelling,
work.
yeah.
It is. You know, and everyone's got to get their check. So, you know, if you've got a lawsuit pending, I can turn on the victimology real good too. I just know that the reason this is was the number one show on Netflix is because this is, in a way, this touches everybody. For Americans, fatness is our obsession with food and the effects of sugar and all of the other Food Inc. and all those other documentaries you can watch. All of those things are a part of the American cross to wear. We all have to wear that. But the cross of beauty and the cross of the pressures to be beautiful, maintain beauty, that's global. International, baby. Miss Universe in planets, okay? And I was sad because midway around episode 2, I realized, you know, the truth is nothing matters more to me than how I look. About myself, about me. You know, like I'm not even saying that there are things that are more valuable to me in my life, you know, my career, everything else. But when that it's most present in my life, I should say, it occupies the most space is that. It is, because the truth is, once you have been fat, you know. You know.
You know
who
what?
would ever want that? Once you've been fat and you've been thin, and you see the way the world treats you, what you get, what you didn't get because you were fat at the time. Listen, I love people of all body shapes and sizes. I'm not talking about Juan Torres-Falcon. I'm talking about the world. I'm talking about the realities of what the body, the body electric offers you in this world, the currency that it is.
Right.
And you can't deny that. So I also sometimes I feel a little bit gaslit with body positivity because I'm like, babe, it's not that positive up there. It's hard. So to just say, oh, everything, love the body, yes, love the body, but we also have to acknowledge what is actually happening here.
Right. I think that's important to, I think sometimes it doesn't tell the full story. Like body positivity is great because we should, no matter whatever size we are, we should be kind to ourselves. And I think that is a great message to have. But like when Lizzo started losing weight and everybody was like, oh, so body positive, da-da-da-da-da, I thought, you know, you guys got to give this girl a fucking break. First of all,
God, of course.
I do believe that she loved her body. no matter how it was. But
Yeah.
when you live a life as a fat person, you know that you are constantly being looked at, on airplanes, when you're
Yeah.
ordering food, you become invisible, but also yet so visible. I think they said that in
Yes,
the
they did.
documentary.
Mm-hmm.
Hyper visible yet
poetic.
hyper invisible. And I'm like, I do not blame any person for doing a fad diet, for going on Ozempic, for getting gastric bypass. It is hard to live in this world, period. And it is harder as a fat person. So if people want to change that in order to just go about their day feeling less encumbered by other people's thoughts and even their own based on
Just
the fat
having an
phobia
easier
they've
life.
ingested,
Of course. Exactly.
let them, babe. Also, I saw a TikTok the other day that I was like, amen. There was a guy that was like, is there a special competition you get for losing weight the right way? Do you get an award if you don't do steroids? If you don't, everybody is faking it. Everybody, even people
Everybody.
that are like, oh, I'm fully natty, da 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 da. There is somewhere in their life that they are faking it. Okay, it might not
Yes.
be their body. We're all doing the best we can with what we've
Yeah.
got. To quote the great Mariah Carey, I think the bigger problem is the food industry. Just being in Europe for, not to be that girl that's like, well, when I was in Europe, but truly being in Europe, eating all of the things, and I wasn't even walking around that much, gaining like 2 pounds. And of course I checked when I got back. It just didn't have the same impact on my body as if I would have eaten the same amount of croissants here in the United States. It's not like this big box grocery store, like the food deserts that exist in this country. But I did want to ask, Ian, as someone who has abs sitting down, how did you navigate body and fat phobia within your own, psyche?
It's interesting. I think like while I was watching this, I thought like while also being on this little vacation, this little like respite that I'm so much enjoying, but also feeling this crazy awareness and clocking how the one sort of thing I would say is like kind of pressing on my brain is the fact that I'm not working out as much as I usually am.
Yeah.
And this was an interesting thing that happened when I was asking Juan earlier a couple days ago, like, oh, I'm thinking about leaving Bolinas and like going to LA for a week or blah, blah, blah. And the first thing he said to me was like, what, stay in Bolinas, maybe just relax. Or like, I guess if you're missing Equinox, go to LA. And I just thought it was so funny because
Juan said this to you?
yeah, but I knew what he meant. He just, it touched on something that really was on my mind. It was like, oh, like this routine I have, like this,
Yes.
this part of my life that I am very obsessed with. I love
Yeah.
it. I love
But are you
fitness.
obsessed with it because it makes you feel good mentally, or are you obsessed with it because you're
because I
scared
like
of
being the
losing
hottest-
the abs sitting down?
I like being the hottest person in the room. And
But do you find that hotness to be because you have abs sitting down?
No, it's because of my amazing personality.
Right. So if you just relied on your personality, you would be okay.
Well, that's what's been interesting about being here is I literally wrote this down. I was like, I've been like letting myself eat and drink more than I usually do. And like when I do that thing that we all kind of do, even though it doesn't really work like this. That whole thing of I ate a pizza last night, so I'm going to work out really hard the next day. It's not how it works, babes. Right?
Yeah.
So like I know that, but there is this like little bit of like release I've kind of like let myself have, which you could say is like temptation or indulging or just like living, right? And then just again, I'm not judging myself. I'm just kind of like, wow, like it is so ingrained in me to move and like work out because I do like the way it feels. It feels good after I'm done. I like the endorphins, all of that, right? But how much is tied to like my relationship with food is very interesting. Because I do see it as decadent. I do see like having
Like you have
the
to deserve
brownie.
it.
Yes, that I have to earn it or that I have to chip away at it once I've eaten it. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So watching the show was just interesting that I'm also going through my own like detoxing from my own routine in a way. Because I'm like, to your question, I'm like, how much of my working out is just an obsession for for external validation, you know? And I know that because I'm like, well, I'm here. I feel so loved. I'm with Jerry and Mar and we're having the best time. And I am devoid of other people. That's the other thing. It's like, it's not very populated here, right? Like even when you go to the beach, like I was sitting, I'm like, wow, I am so used to being looked at a lot, right? I'm not saying like shirtless and like sort of sexually. I'm just saying like
being
you
seen.
walk, yeah, being seen. Like you walk through the city, you're walking through so many people, like everyone's looking at, you know. So I'm noticing like, wow, I'm not doing that. I'm not being seen and I'm not seeing a lot of people. And it's kind of like this detox in a way. I really do mean that. And so like there's something about it that I'm trying to embrace because like with Juan saying like, is it that I miss Equinox? My friend Alex was like, I mean, if you're feeling like a hankering and you want a boy, like go to, you know, I guess go to LA. And it's like, these are important questions because that is the criteria. It's like, yeah, I could go see my friends. I can see the baby, blah, 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 and I have a list of things that would be great. But also on the top are like, oh, boys. And like, this coming back to a thing that I think can get a little like obsessive for me, or it's just like, oh, well, that's not really fulfilling. So that has been wrapped around a little bit of my last 48 hours because it's just, I am questioning a lot of my whys to what I do.
Right.
Why is it that I'm working out the way that I usually work out? And I just think it's helpful. I don't know the answers. I certainly don't have the answers, but I like to feel desired. But I also like to eat, and I'm learning, I think, a new way to just like be okay with where I'm at, you know?
I want to ask you both, as gay men, you know, there's a lot of body stuff that happens within the community, and you know, no matter where you are in the community. What is the craziest thing that a romantic person has said to you about your body?
So like crazy good or crazy like
Bad.
like,
Bad.
Okay, bad.
That has made you think, oh, okay.
Well, okay, I don't know but I did want to Juan, did Jack actually like verbalize that like you don't look the same way anymore, which is why we're not having as much sex or whatever? Or was that a you thing?
No. We talked about that. It was kind of in the post-mortem of our relationship. We talked about the highs and lows of our time together and how there were chapters in which after when I was in grad school, I looked very, very different. When he met me, I was emaciated. I weighed 148 pounds. I was in very good shape. I was in kinky boots at the time. I graduated Columbia and I weighed, I don't know, 198, which is really not even that much, but for, you know, it was different. And I think there definitely was a chapter in which it affected, oh no, our sex life was dynamic. So it had a lot to it. So I think that maybe kind of made me not feel it, but I could sense that it did change.
Got it.
And I always felt that with my ex, he had like, you know, he just had a great body. And I always felt there were chapters in which I felt like the ugly duckling. And I could see other people, how they would see my ex, and they would look at me and be confused. And they had said so. Like one time we were on the beach in P-Town, beautiful, a couple that I thought was trying to hook up with both of us, or I thought maybe at first, was standing there and they were all over Jack, my ex. And they looked at me and they were like, oh, you guys are dating? Oh, and one of them said to me, he goes, I can't wait to hear that story. And honey, I knew exactly what they meant. Another time, while there was like a couple, and this is also in P-Town, other people, the couple wanted to hook up with my ex, but not with me. But I wasn't aware of how badly they did not want to hook up with me. I knew a little bit, but I didn't really know. We went back to their house, and do you know that one of the people in the couple said to me, he gave me a banana. He was like, we're gonna just go tour a little bit upstairs and we'll be right back. And I left me downstairs and I didn't even know what was going on for a second until I realized I was just deemed the weakest link. You are the weakest link. Goodbye. No, but those were two I'm telling them in a facetious way and trying to make light of them, but they were very, very traumatic experiences.
Absolutely.
Because it gave me the feedback that I already knew, and I still know to this day. My body will never be a white body. It will never be a tall body. I love my body, and for many reasons. As much as I hate it, there are many things I love.
Yeah.
But when other people affirm the things that you are very worried about,
Yes.
confirm them,
Yeah.
that's a hard thing. So that's happened throughout my life, especially in white spaces.
Yeah.
When you're reminded that you are not the standard. That's what hurts. What about you, Johnny? What's someone that's told you or something you've experienced?
For me, two of them that just jumped out to me when I asked you the question was, one time I had invited a guy over from Grindr. It was just one of those afternoon, like, please come over and let's bang.
No.
Had the most like, it was such good sex, amazing, passionate, and I was like, oh my God, we should do this again, like in my head. And the last thing he said to me before he left, he like gave me a kiss and he's like, oh, you would be so perfect if you just worked out. And I was like, cool. That's yeah. Like that's how I feel. That's how I felt, and this was during I had just broken up with an ex and I was still, I was on a weight loss journey that I had posted about on Instagram. And so there was like a whole thing to it that he didn't know. And then there was another guy. When I started to date Will, who, if anyone has seen my ex-boyfriend Will, he is got a body of a goddess, like truly so fit, okay? Which is great. All that, so nice. Wasn't the reason I dated him. It did make it nice to touch. But I remember someone that I knew in New York City was like, oh my God, you're dating that guy. Have you ever asked him what it's like to date a fat person?
Who are these people that have the nerve to speak to you?
I won't name this person, but you know who this person is. You both know
I'm
who
sure
this person
I do.
is. And I doubt they listen to the podcast, but if they do, yeah, what you said, I didn't respond because I was actually flabbergasted that he said it. And it was one of those things. I did a lot of reflection on the first one specifically because I always think, I try to give people the benefit of the doubt, and I was like, this guy mentioned something about my body because I feel that he possibly has been told something about his body. So he feels like, hey, I'm going to share this with you, like out of the goodness of my heart. You would be perfect if you just worked out. Because at some point, I do believe everybody hears something about their body, which is why I asked all three of us. Like, Ian, I'm sure there's been someone that said, like, I don't know, what is there anything?
First off, I just want to say before we move on to me, because I will take up time, I am so sorry that someone said that to you. And to answer your question, I don't really, I really don't remember things if I don't need to. Like, my brain only remembers what it needs to remember that either feels good, that was important, that I keep important as I keep retelling story, blah, 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 right? And to answer this question, like, I don't remember anyone really. I don't have an answer to that, but I would say that, like, I am my own critic. Like, I'm the one who is like, gotta get it can be better. I want to be this. I like seeking after something. I like the working hard and like seeing if I can do it, like the testing to myself, right? And so I think, like, I had a bad back injury. Yeah. That really left me feeling like all I wanted to do was feel like I could walk down the street. That at the end of the day was what I wanted. And that, and I had this lumbar fusion when I was like 24 years old. I was so young, but I was also super active. I was dancing all the time. And then I was in Mamma Mia, blah, 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 all these things. And, you think you're impermeable to anything.
Yeah.
And so I remember just wanting to be okay. And then I was. And then I had people around me who believed in me, and I had Joe Roscoe, who I hired as a trainer because I decided, I was like, I want to come back and I want to be better than ever, and I want to, and Nick Adams was always an idol for me. I don't know if he's ever known this, but like, he was someone who, when I like joined Mamma Mia or was auditioning and saw like who I wanted to be, he to me was like,
he ruined it for everybody. He really did.
Yeah,
he really fucked it up.
Because he was so, so fit and so, what a face, and beautiful, and he was working, and Anyway, so I remembered being like, I want what looks like and feels like he has, right? Yeah. Less because it was also like what other people want, is that I want him. So if I want him, classic, I want to look like him because I want people to want me in that same way, right? And there started my desire to be desired. Anyway, so I say all that to say that like I'm the one who's kind of yo-yoing back with a love and like maybe a little bit of a hate for myself if I'm not. Has anyone ever told you look too skinny? Or you could put on some muscle? No, but interestingly enough, when someone who you both know holds space and I'm paying his rent in my brain, when he commented on a picture of mine out of the blue, which also added to the dopamine release that came after, and he said, "Looking big, man!" exclamation point. And I was like, "Wow!" exclamation point. Not even a period, or not even not a period. We're using we're using punctuation. So, I remembered being like, "Oh, I'm getting feedback from what I like." Yes. For looking like what they look like, right? So when Aaron Urso, my current trainer, who we don't work together obviously in person because he lives in LA and I live in New York, but he gives me my prescribed workouts. When I send him a progress pic or just a picture and I'm like, oh, like post, this is what I'm doing, he will say the sweetest thing. He goes, "Oh my God, he's like looking lean." And then I hear that, I read it, and I get upset. Not like I'm not talking like upset like, Gaza. I'm talking upset like that's not what we decided to, that's not what we're working on, like size and I say that to him. I'm like, well, that's not really what I want to hear. Like the whole thing is this, right? And he's like, yeah, he's like, "Are you not eating?" And then we have a good conversation around like, maybe it's so hard for me to actually eat enough, right? But that initial, "you look lean," I don't love that right now.
It's funny because, okay, it's just a funny thing.
I know.
I call people like gigantic men, gigantic. Okay, I'm talking bodybuilders. I'm like, "He's so skinny, you look amazing." I'll say that to them. And they're like, "What? Skinny?" But to me, skinny's good. Like skinny's a net positive. Like skinny's,
no, I know. Yeah.
Skinny's not bad.
That's what I mean? Like, I learned that the hard way too, because I told someone that they look skinny and they were like, that's
someone who's never been fat.
Yeah,
that's someone who's never been fat.
Correct, and that's like the thing that while I will never ever compare the struggles of a thin person to the struggles of anyone fat ever. Okay? Ever.
And they like to.
They do. They do have people tell them throughout their lives, "You need a sandwich." Oh, what? I could just knock you over by blowing you. They do get their fair share, and especially when it comes to being gay men, we like what we like. Like Ian was saying, we have, it's also what they put out. Like in the 80s, before the AIDS epidemic, people were all shapes and sizes. As soon as AIDS hit, if you were too thin or you didn't have muscles, if you didn't pack on that muscle, people thought you were sick. So they did not want to associate with you sexually because you didn't look like you could fight off this disease. So the idea of what was sexy changed. I'm not saying that muscles weren't always, I think since the beginning of the time, muscles have been something that people enjoy, even back to the caveman eras, because it was like, you could get us dinner. So that's hot to me. You can fight off a bear. But I will say, so can a Black
American Express. Our definitions of what can get us dinner have certainly expanded.
Certainly changed.
And who we'd fuck in order to get dinner.
Yeah. So when I hear a lot of gay men be like, "I'm not skinny," it's their own version of not feeling accepted or loved. But they're definitely not dealing with the sort of issues that come with being big on a plane or in an elevator or things like that.
The people who were like, you should eat a sandwich, blah, blah, blah. The first person I thought about who I'm like, oh, like who feels comfortable enough to say that to me or to my sister is my mom. The person I have heard that level of just nonchalant, like awareness of like your body has been from my mom. And this isn't like a dig. I love my mom. She's a yo-yo dieter as well. Like in that, like oh, I need to go on a diet. I need to go on a diet. And I'm like, but she's also very vain, and she's been beautiful her entire life. So that's her voicing diet since we've been born is to me just like, yeah, you used to look a certain way, so you want to get back to that. Fine, whatever. But I love her, and like she can get a little. You're not eating enough. Was a thing for her with me. So she likes to feed me when I'm home. But then also my problem with food and why I think I have an issue just sitting and enjoying it is because I feel like I indulged too much as a kid. And when I was in high school, I lost a lot of weight. I lost like 25 pounds from freshman year to sophomore year when I went to New World School of the Arts because I started dancing again. Now, I wasn't like a big boy, but I've used this term and maybe I'm using it incorrectly, but I call myself a butterball. But maybe people like, wait, a butterball is actually a really fat person. I don't think so. To me, I felt like a butterball. I felt like a boy who had like una barriga and like I had pudginess around.
She
and you were just like,
identified as fat.
Exactly. Yeah. Honestly. And I know
No, está gordito.
I mean, I really was.
No, a little bit, yeah.
Nothing
That's right
crazy.
before puberty, baby.
Yeah, but again, you know, and days of I felt I was like working, I was dancing every day. I went to my first ballet seminar. Like, I mean, my life really did change, and I just kind of lost all this weight, right? So this idea with food is like, at the table, my mom, if there were leftovers or if there was anything left, it was like, Ian, finish it. That's just like what it was. But it's also her way of like love because she knew I loved her food and I loved to
Latin
eat.
mother
And then,
also that.
exactly.
Like,
So that's why
Not
I'm not putting too much weight. What do you mean not this one?
I'm not doing that as a Latin mother to my children.
Right. You know.
They're gonna have other problems.
Yeah. Anyway, so I just bring that all up because I'm curious, like, you know, when you say like those people who are being said that, but I'm like, I in my experience, the only person that I've ever heard that from is my own parent.
the thing is that, like, yes, you can have a personal experience with someone telling you you're too skinny or you're too fat, you're disgusting, you're whatever, but by and large, society gives you those clues as to
Constantly.
who is desired, who is, you know.
The musical theater. I couldn't even think of when you were asking for examples. I chose two that hurt because they were visceral and I felt them because they were comparison. And then it was next to the colonizer that it was because of it was in context a white person, which is why I think it hurt. And it was so poignant. But you're right. These things and these arrows come through. And I remember when I was a little kid, since I was always fat, I was probably 26 in the 8th grade or something. And I remember thinking, like, it's such an obvious thing. It's low-hanging fruit, as everyone says this. But at the time, it felt so novel to me. Losing weight is such a hard thing because you still got to eat.
Yeah.
I remember thinking that, and I remember being like,
you have to eat.
And you do. And I remember being like, oh my God, it's so sad. Like, yeah, because I still have to eat.
Yeah.
And when we were preparing for this conversation, as I've mentioned, I was talking to my boyfriend about it, and he was like, I'm a crier. I've cried out all my tears about my relationship with my body. I really have. I'm dry. This has been the conversation. You look at my journal in middle school. I wish I had it. It's in storage. It's literally like, oh my God, I did this. I just found out about this thing called Taibo. I'm going to ask my mother to buy me. I think that was before 6th grade. I was thinking this was in my 4th grade. It's just been my entire life. And I just realized, is this what it's going to be? Is this going to be this for the next forever?
Yeah.
But I've come to terms, and with therapy, I've realized, you know what? Maybe that is a part of my human experience. One of the things that will always challenge me and that I will always have to wrestle with, and it will always keep me questioning and hoping to grow and learn more about myself is my body, is my relationship with my body. It will never be settled business. But because it's such a big part of your body, the relationship with it is such a big part of your life, it's always keeping me trying to improve and figure out, how can I love myself more? How can I soften this edge of my mind?
Yeah. Such a beautiful way to accept what is kind of within us and soften these. I just loved that. Like, because you're right, it's going to be with you. You're going to be together for a very long time. But you know what you're going to be together with for a very long time as well, and we forget, it's like the mind is so important And the way I think about this a lot with like how I think about food and how again, like what you heard me discuss, just like how I'm feeling a little like, oh, I'm indulging, but it would be okay if I was a little bit more active. At the crux of all of that is like, I just wish there was a little bit more of an activity available to me. But then it's also nice to kind of lounge, blah, blah, blah. Right. But then like, I used to make this joke a lot, because my friend Aaron would always be like, maybe you shouldn't have the bacon. Like, that's not really good for you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, it's fuel. And I really believe, like, I would kind of tell myself that about certain foods I would eat. I'm not saying that about ice cream, right? But certain things that I tell my body, it's like, this I'm going to use. It's useful to me, is very benefit. Oh my God, how do you verbalize beneficial? It was very beneficial for me, because I actually do really believe, like, and Ellen Langer, who's one of my favorite doctors, she's a psychologist, and she's at Harvard. She did this book, Counterclockwise. It's a whole book about how your mind can literally like kind of make you a little younger, and that's like the quickest little fucking log line of it, but it's a great book. And she discusses how you view what you put in your body, how you treat your body, and how you think about yourself and your body are just as important, if not more, than the things you're putting in your body. You know what I mean? The reality of the things.
I mean, I talk about this with probably anything. Like mostly I talk about it with social media. It's like, there's only so much detoxing you can do on your own. There's only so much I'm putting the phone out of my room. There's only so much I'm going to put blocks on these apps. But ultimately, the way that the system works is that it wants you to indulge, whether that be pornography, whether that be social media, whether that be food. Yes. So when we live in a system that sets us up to constantly indulge, to constantly buy things on Amazon, what have you, you're fighting an uphill battle. And we're all starting at different parts of the race. And that's why, as much as we talk about our bodies, we know that there are people that have it much harder than us. We know that there are people that have it much easier than us. But this is really just our purview into this whole idea. But all I can really take from this is that my body is my body, and the ways in which it shows up and the ways that it looks, the ways that it moves are unique to me, and that is something to celebrate. And my body will ebb and it will flow and it will get bigger and it will get smaller, but I'm just grateful that I have one, that it can move the way that it moves, and one day when it can't, I'll be grateful that I even existed. You know what I mean? It's just kind of that gratitude. And I'm not saying gratitude will save you from fat phobia, because it won't. People will remind you, even if you're having the best day, you put on your best sundress, somebody's like, damn, girl. And your day's ruined. You know what I mean? So, but it's less ruined if you know truly within yourself that you are worthy, and I know that sometimes that sounds a little cliche, whatnot, but that is like the daily practice, like you said, writing in your journal, or if we did those things with a little more care towards ourselves and towards each other, I think we could combat things like fat phobia, racism, classism, all these things that are plaguing our society. We could have a better society. Maybe perhaps not perfect. And that's also the thing. Our bodies will never be perfect, because what is perfect? I remember this guy, Danny Perez, who we still follow each other on Instagram. He told me, I said to him, in seeing your beautiful body, for an 18-year-old, he was giving 25-year-old body, all right?
Okay.
To me. And I said,
it's
Danny.
A great name, Danny Perez.
I looked like you. If I look like you, everything would be good for me. And he said, it wouldn't, because once you get this body, then you want something better. The goalpost keeps moving.
I've heard that,
but it's true. No, it's true. It's true, because
it's true, but not completely true.
But hold on, Juan. Hold on, because even the way that I look right now, 4 years ago, I was like, if I just looked exactly like that, I would be perfectly satisfied. Guess what? Here we are, right here, right now. The shoulders are popping, the arms are popping, the chest is growing. Still not happy. And I'm like, is it going to take abs? I don't think so. Because ultimately, that's also when my mind started changing, not when I started to lose weight, but when I started to say, Baby, I've never hungered for dick. I've always gotten it. No matter how big or small I am, dick's been thrown at me. You know what I mean? Because a lot of it has come from like the desire for men to want me the way that I want them. Mm-hmm. I just started to say, I am fucking sexy. I am. I'm smart. I'm funny. I'm sexy. Like, I started to add on to the things that I already have rather than subtract, you know?
Wow.
But I'll say to the radical nihilist, not so optimist in the chat, I'll tell you how you cope with that. Okay? Because I have my version of it is actually not so bleak. It might sound bleak. My version of it is this. I've cried rich and I've cried poor. Crying rich is better, but you're still crying.
Right.
My grandma used to say, I've cried on cotton, I've cried on silk. Mm-hmm. It's better to cry on silk pillowcases. So it's instead of it being like, it's better like, yes.
The goal
keeps moving.
Will move, but it does change. Things
change.
Yes,
it does change. It does change. Of course, there are then exceptions to that when it becomes a vast obsession, a conspiracy within your mind that doesn't allow you to enjoy absolutely anything at all. That's another story. And I know that I can be a little bit of a curmudgeon when it comes to the human body, despite my usual rosiness. But I will say that one thing that I have worked on, and I'm really proud of the work that I've done, the inroads I've made in my mind, is the importance of what my man feels about me. I never believed what a man said about me. If a man was like, "You are so fucking hot," I'd be like, "You fucking liar." I just didn't believe it. So now I allow it. I say yes to the dress.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay? As long as like there's love and sex and touch, I don't question it. Mm-hmm. I allow it to happen.
You're
so
like,
even if
"Wait
they're
a
not
second,
saying it,
he's
yeah,
lying." Right.
Yeah. It's like Barbara Streisand always says, she says it in her act, she goes, when you're younger, you can sing those kind of codependency songs. When you get older, eventually it's like, I can be happy, I can be sad. It all depends on you. No. So at a certain point, you have to start finding some of that within yourself. And I have made inroads there that have made my relationship with my body better. And it's the climb. Isn't that what Miley once said?
It's the climb. And it's also, I think one of the beautiful things I noticed while watching the documentary is how we are now versus how we were then. How the things that we watched on that show didn't make us cringe then, it makes us cringe now. And that to me is what woke is.
Yeah, that is.
What that
we
are
wouldn't do it now.
That we evolve, that we move forward. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's like, well, was it really that bad? Maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't in some ways. But I think it was beautiful to see how people won't stand for that kind of humiliation. They won't stand for that kind of tomfoolery. And I love the ways in which people stick up for each other now, even online, even in their friend groups.
And now you don't have to go on a show if you need to have dramatic weight loss. Just go, take Ozempic, trizepatide, or this semaglutide, do it in secret, tell everyone you did it through diet and exercise, and fuck them. Para pinga. Para pinga. Because everyone's on it.
Exactly. And the girls that are pumping up their bodies with these steroids and muscles and things, they're not saying it. Some of them have full fitness accounts. And you're like, and excuse me? So however you need to get your body to look how you want it to look, do it.
As long as it's, don't do. Yeah,
I had liposuction.
One out of what Americans do you think have tried GLP-1?
1 in 7.
It's 1 in 10. 10% of Americans
are what? Are what?
Have tried or are using a weight loss medication like GLP-1 medication like Ozempic, Wegovy, trizepatide, Mounjaro. Wow. 1 in 10.
1 in 10.
It's a topic for another day.
Yeah.
The biggest loser doesn't need to exist now.
And the biggest loser's in the White House, so we don't have to worry about that. That being said, thank you guys for joining. If you're skinny, if you're fat, if you're skinny fat, whatever, who cares? Just love yourself. We love you.
We do.
Please. Go have a
I
piece
love
of
you more
pie.
than I love me, so how about that?
That is the other thing. Yes.
Okay.
Bye, you guys.
Bye.
Qué rico.